discussion on Inside Washington.
This is the CBS Evening News. Bob Schieffer reporting. Good evening. An unusual high-level meeting at the White House today to consider the case of Manuel Noriega, the Panamanian leader and accused drug dealer who just says no every time the Reagan administration pressures him to give up power. Today's developments now from Terrence Smith at the White House.
Virtually the entire top echelon of the Reagan administration came to the White House for an extraordinary Saturday morning review of the stalemate over Panama's General Noriega. The President, Vice President Bush, Chief of Staff Howard Baker, Secretaries Schultz, Carlucci, and James Baker were joined by CIA Director William Webster, Attorney General Edwin Meese, and other officials to hear a report on the latest discussions with Noriega. Sources said the meeting focused on the terms of a deal under which Noriega would agree to relinquish power and leave Panama until after the presidential elections next May. In exchange, the U.S. would drop drug charges against Noriega. One outspoken Republican critic thinks such a deal would backfire with the American public.
Because I happen to know that close to 100% of the people who have been calling the White House and calling President Reagan have been saying, don't go through with this.
Do we have a deal on Noriega, Mr. Vice President?
Administration officials refused to answer questions when they emerged from the meeting, and a spokesman would say only that no deal had been reached and that the discussions with Panama would continue. But one Republican believes that after 2 months of fruitless negotiations, the time has come to turn the issue over to Panama's Latin American neighbors.
Given the situation currently, I think that a very positive effort would be simply to say no deal, and we're tossing the ball to others.
And a leader of the anti-Noriega forces says the bargain currently under consideration is no solution.
The people of Panama would not accept it. The democratic forces who oppose Noriega would not accept it. President Del Valle would not accept it. The country would continue to be in turmoil.
Whatever its merits, the administration would like to reach a deal with Noriega before the president leaves for his Moscow summit next week, or relegate the whole issue to the back burner. As one official put it, my idea of a nightmare is having the president worry about Noriega while sitting across the table from Gorbachev. Terrence Smith, CBS News, the White House.
In Panama, Noriega is trying to turn the situation to his own political advantage, and we have the story there now from Juan Vasquez.
Deal or no deal, General Noriega is showing increasing contempt these days for the United States. His latest appearance was staged under a banner mocking President Reagan and calling for the Yankee dogs to get out of Panama. American concessions have made Noriega seem so confident he has issued a new demand, recognition of his hand-picked president, Manuel Solis Palma. While the United States has to listen to these demands, it seems that few here in Panama are paying attention. Noriega had to stop his anti-American speech to admonish his own supporters to be quiet. In a neighborhood where tens of thousands of poor workers live, Noriega could muster a crowd of no more than 2,000. Many came for free food, free soccer balls, and a skydiving show. But if Noriega is failing to win ground internally, the United States is losing ground.
What is growing in Panama is not a sentiment in favor of Noriega. What is growing in Panama is a sentiment against the United States.
Noriega has nourished this sentiment by portraying himself as the defender of Panama's sovereignty. His critics don't believe Panamanians are buying it.
He's trying to use a false nationalism to show the world that he's fighting for principles in Panama. But we all know that his personal concern is the indictment.
Noriega's closest advisors claim the general does not plan on leaving. After his speech, Noriega went on a walking tour of San Miguelito, a rare event for a general. A cabinet minister observed that Panama will hold presidential elections in 1 year and declared, "This looks like the start of a campaign." Juan Vasquez, CBS News, Panama City.
What may look like the start of a campaign for Noriega is looking more and more like a political embarrassment of major proportions for the Reagan administration. Peter Peterson, a one-time cabinet officer in the Nixon administration, now chairman of the Council on Foreign Relations, sums it up this way.
And I think we're made to look like some dictator down there is twisting the tail of a paper tiger and toying with us.
The administration first tried economic pressure, then beefed up its own security forces around the canal, then said it would recognize opposition leader Eric Duvalier as the country's real president. But thus far, the only tangible result has been to throw Panama's economic and political institutions into turmoil.
We're taking all these actions against Panama as opposed to Noriega and the Panama Defense Forces. We are heavily damaging Panama as a country, which is presumably not what we have in mind. And having done all of that, we haven't achieved our goal, which is to get rid of one pipsqueak general.
Even the highly controversial offer to drop drug indictments against Noriega if he agrees to quit has not worked. But White House officials still argue it might.
The indictment is a part of the strategy. The indictment is a useful part of the technique to try to get Noriega so that he can no longer use the government of Panama, the armed forces of Panama, to advance the cause of his own drug trafficking and trading.
The presumption is that if you drop the indictment, you've somehow solved the problem. Do we believe that getting rid of him is going to get rid of Panama as a drug center? Anybody that knows much about Panama tells me that there's an immense, deeply built-in infrastructure dealing with drugs. So just getting rid of Noriega doesn't solve that problem. So I don't think it solves the foreign policy problem. I don't think it solves the drug problem.
What it has done is create an enormous political problem for George Bush. Loyalty to the president has been Bush's watchword, but no candidate wants to be accused of going easy on drug dealers, so Bush split with the administration this week over dropping the indictments.
I suppose the vice president's vulnerability is not only the fact that he, after all, is part of the administration that went down this other track, but after all, he has been the head, as I believe, of the drug task force and the terrorism task force. And I suppose Mr. Dukakis will remind us that the results haven't been too terrific.
Some of the actions that have taken place are, quite frankly, ridiculous and ludicrous, and this cannot help the image of the United States and the rest of the hemisphere, or for that matter, anywhere in the world.
Nor does it help much in a political campaign, as the vice president's people discovered this week. Coming up next, the woman who terrorized Winnetka, Illinois, is now blamed in another bizarre case. And later on the CBS Evening News, Jerry Bowen will tell a big story about Wales.
And what makes you think we won't end up like last year?
What happened last year?
We ordered new computers when the loans department expanded, but it took us 6 months to develop their application software.
Where I used to work, we get to keep our software when we upgraded our computers. We used AT&T.
AT&T.
Why didn't you think of that?
Whirlpool and I spent years becoming laundry experts, but now they make it easy for everybody.
With so many choices of cycles and temperatures for most any fabric,
Even Grandpa might do a good job on the laundry. Nah.
This man is twice as strong as this man. Tums EX is twice as strong as Rolaids, so Tums neutralizes twice the stomach acid. Tums EX, twice as strong as Rolaids.
Just as Winnetka, Illinois was struggling to get back on its feet after yesterday's shooting rampage, there was another shocking development today. The woman who did the shooting is now blamed in a poisoning case that's landed several people in the hospital. Frank Courier with the latest.
Parents and children at the Hubbard Woods School today returned to the scene of yesterday's bloody shooting rampage to grieve and pray together and talk about the tragedy that left one child dead and 5 others wounded.
Just knowing that the individual that did all this is gone, is out of the situation, let's put it that way.
Well, it's sort of frightening that one of your friends has been killed and gone.
8-year-old Nicholas Corwin is dead. 5 of his friends hospitalized in critical condition. It was here in the affluent Chicago suburb of Winnetka where an emotionally disturbed woman with 3 handguns opened fire on children in a 2nd grade classroom.
The children asked questions of why would someone do something so wicked?
and why do children die?
The suspect, 30-year-old Lori Dan, wounded a sixth person at a nearby home, where she barricaded herself for 8 hours before police SWAT teams discovered she had taken her own life.
I'm shocked at what's happened, but I think she was disturbed.
So do Winnetka police, who today linked Lori Dan to another crime, leaving sample containers of juice and cookies, both poisoned, at the doorsteps of families where she had babysat, and at a school fraternity house, where 3 young men tried it and are now hospitalized.
The situation with Lori Dan has not yet ended.
One of the questions most nagging to investigators is how Lori Dan, mentally unstable, who'd had brushes with police and was being sought by the FBI, could have possessed a permit to own a heavy handgun like a .357 Magnum.
Lori Dan's recent bizarre behavior includes a string of threatening phone calls to a relative, suspicion in a mysterious ice pick attack on her estranged husband, and an arrest for shoplifting wigs from a discount house.
I can't believe it. It's not like her. I mean, of all the people, of anyone, I would never expect her.
As investigators launch deeper into the background of Lori Dan, into why and how, grieving parents and children still stunned by the senseless shootings prepare for difficult days, beginning Monday when little Nicholas Corwin is buried. Frank Courier, CBS News, Winnetka, Illinois.
A federal judge was shot to death today while mowing his lawn at his home in the New York City suburb of Pelham. The FBI says that Judge Richard Duranko was killed by a gunman who then committed suicide. The motive is not known. Police in Bradley County, Tennessee made a big drug bust today. They rounded up more than 80 suspects snared in a year-long sting operation. The police recovered millions in cash and drugs, everything from pot to cocaine to LSD. Illegal drugs have become topic A in the race for the White House. Both Democratic candidates are now staking claim to the issue. We have a report on that tonight from Bill Whitaker.
As he campaigns for the California primary June 7th, Michael Dukakis has made drugs his #1 issue.
The greatest threat to our security in this hemisphere is not the Sandinistas. It's this avalanche of drugs that is pouring into this country every day.
He's even enlisted the aid of his wife, Kitty, who tells youngsters of her one-time addiction to diet pills.
As Michael said, I had a dependency problem that lasted for 26 years.
Dukakis' growing focus on the issue coincides with recent polls showing drugs to be the nation's #1 concern. He hears about it from older voters in San Francisco.
There's so much money involved in drugs.
And from school children in New Jersey.
What about drugs and alcohol? Why are kids using this stuff?
Down with dope! Up with hope!
Jesse Jackson has been pushing the drug issue all along. Jackson calls Dukakis a Johnny-come-lately to the drug problem. Dukakis staffers concede Jackson injected the issue into the campaign, but they insist the governor has fought drugs in his home state of Massachusetts for years.
It's not Jesse Jackson's issue, it's all of our issue.
No matter who first seized the drug issue, it's clearly a plus for the Democrats. Polls show voters dissatisfied with Republican handling of the problem. That's been compounded by recent Reagan administration dealings with Noriega.
If with your help, Mike Dukakis is president of the United States in 1989, we won't be doing business with drug-running Panamanian dictators.
Dukakis staffers admit he'll have to share the drug issue with Jesse Jackson in the upcoming primaries. But they predict in a general election with George Bush, the drug issue will be a Dukakis issue. Bill Whitaker, CBS News, Los Angeles.
New polling this week suggesting that Dukakis could beat George Bush in the fall has revived talk of a possible shakeup in the Bush campaign organization. Several Republican sources told CBS News this weekend that Treasury Secretary James Baker, one of the vice president's oldest friends, will be brought in to run the Bush campaign next month. Baker, however, told CBS News tonight that no such deal has been struck and that he would remain in his cabinet post until the president and the vice president decide otherwise.
Introducing the all-new Oldsmobile Cutlass Supreme. Four-wheel disc brakes, a multi-port fuel-injected V6 engine, four-wheel independent suspension, and aerodynamic styling even the wind can't resist. In short, the new Cutlass Supreme is not your father's Oldsmobile.
When you have heartburn,
you can bet on effective cherry-flavored Rolaids antacid. Calcium-rich, sodium-free, and a winning cherry taste. Cherry-flavored Rolaids. Tastes like cherry, works like Rolaids.
When the burning, itching, and soreness of hemorrhoids flare up, Tux medicated pads give you soothing, cooling relief on contact. For hemorrhoid flare-up, get Tux from Park Davis.
Today, millions of Miracle Grow gardeners are getting wonderful results with this amazing invention, the Miracle Grow No-Clog Garden Feeder. It's the fastest, easiest feeder I've ever used. Well, now you can use it to feed your lawn, because now there's Miracle Grow Lawn Food. It makes lawn care so easy, just drop in and spray on. You'll feed your whole lawn in minutes. You'll see lush green results in days. Stern's Miracle Grow Lawn Food for a Miracle Grow lawn you'll be proud of.
The Communist Party chiefs of the Soviet republics of Armenia and Azerbaijan were fired in disgrace today. At least 32 people have died in ethnic violence in the region, sparked by a territorial dispute. Wherever a U.S. president travels, a bit of America goes with him. But as the summit approaches, the Soviet people have been getting an unprecedented advance look on their own television screens. Barry Peterson reports.
A TV commercial, the sort of thing Americans don't give a second thought or even a second glance to. The sort of thing that Soviets almost never see.
Новое поколение выбирает Pepsi.
But this week, it was TV commercials and talk shows focusing on America, and not the sort of America that was once shown here. In the days before Glasnost, it was anything but America the Beautiful. Soviet documentaries portrayed a land of danger and sudden death. America hasn't changed so dramatically in the last few years, but America's television image in this country has gotten a lot better, especially with the approach of the Superpower Summit.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Большое спасибо. A five-part series, Meeting in America, was done in Seattle with Americans not always flattering their country. Many single women live in complete poverty, said one woman. It's too easy to make money selling narcotics, said this man. Soviets were surprised by the utter frankness of Americans.
The internal liberty that they see in these people. They're not thinking about what anyone else might say in a way of a reaction to what they are saying. Very important thing for Soviets, I think.
Such shows are whetting an appetite here.
I would like to see more about Americans in their homes, not just special people put before a television.
And about those commercials. Are personal credit cards or Japanese-made televisions something Soviets can really expect to have? Some Soviet officials were uncomfortable hearing Americans who supported Star Wars or who called the Soviet leader a dictator.
It wasn't all smooth sailing. We got what we wanted, we did what we wanted, we did not edit out, we did not cut. But there were people, and there are people, who are not very enthralled by this type of show.
Tonight, another window into America, a friendly documentary on businessman Arm & Hammer, one of the world's most successful capitalists. The documentary title, Comrade American Millionaire. Barry Peterson, CBS News, Moscow.
Daddy, I want my teddy bear.
I want my Serta.
I want my Serta.
Get comfortable. Get a Serta Perfect Sleeper. It's the only mattress that goes beyond firmness to give you the exclusive Serta surface with layers of Serta comfort. It'll spoil you for sleeping any other way.
I want my Serta.
I took Metamucil, but it was so gritty.
That's why we made Citracel. Look, Metamucil's gritty, so it won't all go through the strainer. Citracel's special fiber pours right through. Citracel, great taste, no grit.
Another day is turned to night. Close your eyes, say goodnight.
Salmon X2 has a sleep ingredient doctors recommend to help you fall asleep safely without worry. Salmon X2.
Good night.
With time growing short, President Reagan urged the Senate again today to ratify the missile treaty in time for next week's Moscow summit. In his weekly radio address this Armed Forces Day, Mr. Reagan had special praise for the crewman of the frigate Samuel Roberts for saving the ship after it hit a mine in the Persian Gulf last month. There are 42,000 American troops in South Korea, and their removal is a main demand of students whose protests are taking an increasingly violent anti-U.S. tone. Richard Wagner tonight with that.
Radical students continue to battle with riot police in Seoul today, and increasingly, the target of their protest is not their government, but the United States.
Anti-American sentiment is popular these days.
That sentiment was in evidence earlier in the week in Gwangju, where the people blamed the U.S. for allowing Korean troops to massacre hundreds of civilians 8 years ago. And it was evident in Seoul as well, where the radicals put the torch to Old Glory to protest the U.S. military presence here. Yesterday, a small group of students rushed the U.S. Embassy in Seoul, and 5 were able to scale the outer fence. They threw homemade bombs at the main building, but no Americans or Korean staffers were injured. The intruders were arrested and remained defiant to the end. In the midst of all this violence, it's important to keep in mind that protesters are only a tiny fraction of the Korean people. There's another, quieter, deeper relationship between the two countries.
And there's a long tradition and history here, a friendship really that has been washed in blood in reality in the Korean War.
The vast majority of Koreans, those who remember the war here, do not support the students. Millions can recall Koreans and Americans fighting together to preserve freedom. But the radicals choose to ignore history and select their own view of reality, blaming the United States for the partition of Korea and claiming the U.S. is preventing reunification of the nation. Even though the radicals are unlikely to win widespread popular support, there's no evidence they have any intention of calling off their demonstrations. It would seem the riot police are in for a long summer. Richard Wagner, CBS News, Seoul.
At a news conference today, Admiral Penley of the UN Command accused North Korea of trying to scare off competitors from South Korea's Summer Olympics. He charged the North with fabricating violations along the DMZ and making false warnings that war is imminent.
And what makes you think we won't end up like last year?
What happened last year?
We ordered new computers when the loans department expanded, but it took us 6 months to develop their application software.
Where I used to work, we get to keep our software when we upgraded our computers. We used AT&T.
AT&T.
Why didn't you think of that?
On July 26, 1983, the Gaynor family had a heart attack.
When John had his heart attack, really happened to all of us. Our whole family changed. One of those changes is our diet. Now it's low in saturated fats and cholesterol. Fleischmann's is a part of that diet. It has 0 cholesterol, and another thing, it tastes terrific. I mean, I want to keep him healthy, but I want to keep him happy too.
Fleischmann's. It does your heart good.
I tell you, he's gotten goofy.
I like your dad.
Dad? He thinks he's my brother. Last night we were shooting hoops at 10 o'clock.
So?
Marty, this is the same man who never lifted his nose out of a newspaper. Now he listens to Z-Rock on the radio. Whose is this?
The right vitamin nutrition and a balanced diet helps people get more out of life. Some are finding Kellogg's Product 19, 100% of 12 vitamins and minerals.
I just wish he'd act his age, like your dad.
Feel like 19 again.
Risen Star rose to the occasion today to win the Preakness, the second jewel in racing's Triple Crown. Brian's time finished second. Winning Colors, the Kentucky Derby winner, finished third. Horses are not the only animals getting a lot of attention today. Some people are keeping their eyes on some whales ready to give them a hand. And Jerry Bowen has that report.
It's 11 a.m. and you're in tune with KAOI Wailuku.
A warm and hazy good morning, Big Island whale enthusiasts. Humpback whales were scarce off our West Hawaii
coast. The humpbacks are off to their summer feeding grounds in Alaska, Dan McSweeney tells his listeners, and as soon as he can get off the phone, McSweeney will be in the water too, seeing who's still around.
Whoa, look at all kinds of stuff. Look
Dan McSweeney spends his days documenting the behavior of whales, working with a private group, the West Coast Whale Foundation, to learn more about how these intriguing mammals live and how man can help them survive. McSweeney has tracked a remarkable turnaround by the humpbacks in the almost 15 years he's been watching, and when they migrate north, he looks for pilot whales in the warm waters off Hawaii's Kona coast.
That looks like a mom and a baby coming up. We're looking to find out certainly how many are out there, what sort of family groups they move in. 7, 8, 9, 10,
It's something of a whale family tree he's trying to chart, and with help this trip from graduate student Susan Cruz, McSweeney is taking hundreds of pictures of the pilot's notched dorsal fins.
Frame 8, large finned male.
Each fin is distinctive, which is how McSweeney keeps track of his roaming subjects. Sometimes the self-trained marine biologist roams with them, capturing splendid underwater photographs. But the work, done under government permit, is not without risk. There are sharks, 8 to 10 feet long oceanic whitetips, which follow the pilot whales, gobbling up the squid and tuna the whales don't get to. Given a chance, they'll gobble up people, too.
They're considered a punky shark. I certainly pay a lot of attention to them when I'm in the water.
Each night, with his boat parked outside the coffee plantation shack he calls home, McSweeney retires to his computer room to do some detective work, to match pictures of pilot dorsal fins or humpback tails like you'd match fingerprints. It gives McSweeney a better idea of who's around and roughly how many there are.
Seems to be good news. The counts in the late 60s, early 70s came in at 850 individuals. We're estimating that we've got probably 4,000 to 5,000 humpbacks in the eastern North Pacific at this time.
McSweeney says that after nearly 15 years, every day on the water seems like his first. There's usually something he hasn't seen before.
Whale-orama.
And when he does see some familiar old shapes, that's good news too, for Dan McSweeney and his whale friends. Jerry Bowen, CBS News, Kona, Hawaii.
That's the news. Susan Spencer will be here tomorrow. Later tonight on West 57th, John Ferrugia reports on L.A. street gangs taking their drugs and violence to other cities. I'm Bob Schieffer, CBS News, New York. Good night.
Up to $2,000 cash back from Subaru is worth more than the same money from anyone else. It's worth more because Subaru builds a rugged, reliable wagon that's the best-selling import wagon in America. It's worth more because Subaru's XT6 has the same engine design found in a Ferrari or a Porsche. It's worth more because the Subaru Justy is the lowest-priced four-wheel drive passenger car in America. Up to $2,000 cash back on a Subaru is worth more because it's on a Subaru.
Now for indigestion, gas. Introducing new Extra Strength Malox Plus. It neutralizes more than any leading antacid and dissolves gas. Nobody does as much as new Extra Strength Malox Plus.
New Caffrey toothpaste decaffeinates your smile.
Coffee and tea can stain your smile, like they stain your cup.
New Caffrey gets out coffee and tea stains better than the leading toothpaste. Caffrey decaffeinates your smile every day, toothpaste or gel.
Dominique and the Hawks take on Bird and the Celtics in the final battle of their playoff series. The NBA rocks on CBS Sports.
This is CBS. Today's weather, WTOP.